Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Shooting the Brass with Scooter. Today is September 12th, 2021. Hold on, I got to turn my little notification thingies off because they're being loud and obnoxious. Today is the day after the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And for those of you that weren't born yet, you don't really understand what it was like for those of us that watched it live happen. Just like people in 2011, 2001, sorry, that weren't alive in 1986 when the Challenger space shuttle exploded. It's one of those things that, a lot of us take to heart. And it was one of those times in my living memory when people actually didn't bring politics into the conversation. It was a tragic event. A lot of people lost their lives. A lot of first responders, both human and canine, ran into the buildings without thinking one bit about their lives, and they never came out. So as we remember, and hopefully never forget, just like my mom's generation, who will never forget Pearl Harbor when it happened. It's one of those things that you really need to keep your mind on, especially when we get down to the insignificance of the current problems we have in the United States of which party is the right party, who's right, who's wrong, when, as far as I'm concerned, both sides are at fault. So think about that when you're on your TikTok, your Facebook, or whatever, and your goal is to go out there and try to own the libs or own the conservatives or whatever your thing is, where you're just basically trolling people because you get a kick out of that. For those of you that do that, as far as I'm concerned, you are pond scum. We're all Americans, right and left, whether you like it or not. Time to start remembering that. Time to start stopping the mainstream media, the government, and all these different organizations that are working really, really hard to keep Americans divided. Throw those fuckers out. Get rid of them. And let's start over. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that today. Now, yesterday also marked my third anniversary for multi-gun competitions. 3 years ago, not yesterday specifically, but the September 2019 multi-gun match at Rio Salado was my very first multi-gun match ever. It was a new start for me in competition shooting, and it was a rough match because I didn't know what to expect or what kind of experience I was going to get. It was 108 degrees in September at the match, and we were in the back 40, so there's no shade back there. And not understanding and knowing what goes on at one of these matches, we didn't bring enough water. So I was only able to actually complete 3 of the 4 stages before I was to the point where I was either going to have to get out of the sun and get hydrated, or I was probably going to have a heat stroke, and that would have been probably bad. So that was my first foray, and that was a long time ago. And that's when it first started for me, learning how to be a competition shooter. 3 years now. I've been competing for 3 years in the multi-gun and PCC tactical shotgun portions of Rio Salado's competitions. And I've learned a lot. Okay. One of the things that I've noticed over the past 3 years is that my skill level has increased greatly. I'm so much better now than I was back then. Back then when I first started, I could not transition between targets and fire while moving, whereas now I can. I'm a lot better at distance shooting. I understand the holdovers. I understand how my scope works, what the MOA is. I've learned how to zero weapons, rifles, pistols, pretty much any kind of firearm that has a scope or a red dot. I learned how to do that through competition shooting. I've also, because of my experience with competition shooting and the people that I shoot with, I now know how to reload ammo, which is something I couldn't do and didn't even think about doing 3 years ago. Um, there's also the responsibility aspect of it. The chances of me having an accidental discharge or something like that is so much less than it used to be because of the fact that I'm so aware of the safety aspect of firearms. The fact that you always believe that they're loaded until you verify otherwise. How to carry your firearm, the 180 rule, so that you don't break that rule and sweep people in the audience behind you. I now carry first aid with me whenever I shoot. Pretty much all the time. I've always got a trauma kit with me and CPR stuff because I am a first responder at work. So I've kind of gotten in the habit of carrying you can see it right behind me over here, this red thing here on the wall. It's a black trauma pack, and the red thing is for it's a CPR mask for both adults and children. There's one of each in there, so that I can, if I need to give CPR, I can protect myself and them with these masks. So there's been a lot of good experiences that I've had. There's been some stuff that was a little rocky, and I definitely learned some lessons that were a little hard to learn. But all in all, I'm a much better firearm owner, having the experiences and knowledge and skills that I've learned over the past 3 years. Your average firearm person is somebody that has a handgun or something tucked under their pillow or in a drawer somewhere, and they may show up at the range once a month or once every couple of months, shoot at a paper target down 25 yards away, and think that's, well, if I can hit the target, then I'm good. It's not like that. If you don't train yourself to load, unload, transition between targets, loading while you're moving. Yesterday's match, I was actually running from the first half of stage 4 to the second half of stage 4, changing magazines on the run, which is something that I couldn't do 3 years ago. You learn these things because it becomes muscle memory after a while, and then you don't have to think about it. You just do it. And so that's one of the benefits of competition shooting. I'd love more people to be involved. I've been trying to get friends and family in the area to come and join me and learn how to shoot and stuff like that. Learn how to do competitions, and I've had not much success, which is unfortunate because, it really is a good teacher. You learn a lot, and you become more experienced, more knowledgeable, and more skillful, which is something I think anybody that handles firearms on a regular basis or owns firearms should be doing, is some sort of training. If you're a first-time gun owner, it's not a bad idea to take some instructional training on the introduction to, firearms, introduction to range safety, things like that. And that way you're more educated when you do go to the range, or when you do buy your first firearm or decide to buy a second firearm or whatever. So I'm a big proponent of training, which is why I'm currently working on getting my instructor's license through the Liberal Gun Club so that I can actually start teaching courses and be one of their listed instructors in Arizona. I think we only have one right now. So there's a couple more of us that are working on it. So we'll have 2 or 3 at least in the state. Also, as of yesterday, the state chapter of the Liberal Gun Club, we had our organizational meeting yesterday, and I was elected as president of the Arizona chapter, which is a good honor for me. I'm hoping that we can actually bring the organization, the state organization, and the national organization, some more members, get some more events, bringing liberal gun owners together. A lot of liberal gun owners don't feel comfortable in the current climate going to a gun range that's pretty much flooded with conservatives. So it's a way to start getting hopefully a lot more people involved. It was one of those things I was asked to start helping to form the chapter last year, and because of COVID and work and a bunch of other stuff, I just never got around to it. So we finally got that done. I'll be putting all the paperwork together. We elected our officers and our board of directors last night, and that way we have our charter and everything. Our bylaws are all ready. and that way I can send it all into the national chapter and hopefully just get approval and be done with it. That pretty much covers that part of it. Now, yesterday's match, we had the September multi-gun match, and because the state PCC championships are at the end of September, instead of having 2-gun, 3-gun like we normally do every month, they had 2-gun and PCC. So a lot of us shot PCC yesterday. I preferred 3-gun. I love 3-gun. I love being able to transition between all three of my guns on stages and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun for me, and it teaches me more accurate transitioning between firearms. So I use what's called a Freedom Ordnance FX9, which is an AR-based platform using Glock magazines. So it looks just like an AR-15, but it's 9mm, and it uses Glock magazines. And so I had a 1:4 scope that I installed on it, and a week or two ago I took it to the range to make sure my zero was still good, which it was. The zero is great. But there's a few things that I found out yesterday in running this, the way I have it all set up and everything, that was problematic. The first problem I had, of course, was that I was getting some feed jams that I wasn't used to. There was two of the 4 stages I had mag problems. 2 of the 4 stages, the mags ran perfectly. And it's funny because the first stage I ran perfectly. The second and third stage I had problems. The fourth stage ran perfectly. So the 2 center stages that I ran, I had mag problems. And on both those stages, I had a brass not fully eject and then get caught up by the next bullet coming up into the chamber. Luckily, I had my knife with me. I keep my knife in my pocket. So I was able to whip out my knife and dig it out and everything and continue on, but it cost me a lot of time. The next problem I found was that my 33-round magazines, Glock magazines, are too tall. They're longer than my bipod. So I got up and was on the top of the stage, and my bipod wasn't touching the ground. I was sitting on top of the actual magazine, so it was wobbly. It didn't have any real strength. I was still able to hit the target. I think it was at 175 yards, which is pretty good for a 9mm rifle, is hitting a target at almost 200 yards. But it did cost me time because I did have the feed jam, and then I had another problem with the magazines, and then they weren't going in right. It was pretty much a shit show for that stage. And then the next stage after that, I also had the same problem. I had the same exact thing happen. A brass did not fully eject, so the next round bound up with it. So I was able to clear that a lot faster because it had happened once before already during the day. So I knew exactly, boom, I was done. And then, of course, the first stage I shot and the last stage I shot were pretty much, bang, bang, bang. So I've got to work on my magazines. I got to figure out if I've got a magazine problem, an injection port problem, an extractor problem. There's a couple of things, and I only got a couple of weeks to figure it out because the state championship's on the 24th and 25th. So I've just got 2 weeks. Now, one of the other problems I had was the scope itself. Now, a scope on a PCC, the idea behind it was we're going to be shooting farther than normal with a 9mm. So I wanted to be able to scope in on the target because my vision, I'm wearing trifocals, so my vision really blows. And when you're trying to look through a red dot or a scope, if you can't magnify at your distance targets, you may not be able to see it well enough to be able to aim with your offsets. So I would put a scope on there, a 1x4 power. And but the problem I found with it yesterday was it was harder to get a quick sight picture. So transitioning between targets was a lot harder because I had to work really hard to get that sight picture into the right distance so that I didn't have that black tunnel coming in around the dot. And it cost me time. So I went to AGI Sporting Goods on the way home yesterday and picked up a Crimson. What's the name of that damn thing? Crimson Trace, I think it is what it is. Crimson Trace. It's a red dot. It's got a good frame on it that raises it up above the Picatinny rail about 1.5 inches, which means that I can actually get to it without having to really get down onto the barrel. and it's a very clear sight picture. So it's going to be a lot easier for me in the future for the state match to be able to use that and be able to actually pick up my targets a lot faster. I'll just have to work on the lack of magnification problem, which won't be too bad because last year when I shot this match, I actually used a red dot and I was able to hit the targets at 200 yards without a problem. So I just got to get back used to it. I don't normally shoot PCC, so it's one of those things that I need to practice more on. So those are the problems I ran into yesterday when I was actually at the match. The other problem was it was damn hot out there. Here we are, September, and we have heat advisories and all this other stuff. I mean, it's supposed to be the beginning of fall, right? Yeah, well, not here in Arizona. We decided we were going to have like 105 degrees yesterday. And the hard part about it, we started at 7 a.m., so it wasn't bad until the sun peaked over the mountains. Once we got started hitting by the sunlight, then the temperature started rising pretty quick, and it was dead still. So there was no wind, no breeze. So you started sweating quick, and then there was nothing to help cool you down. So in the first 2 stages, we were in the back 40s, so there's no shade back there whatsoever. Luckily, we got the last 2 stages we shot, stage 1 and stage 2, they got shade there. So we were actually able to get into some of the shade. And we always carry a lot of water with us now after that first one where I didn't have enough. So we usually got 2 or 3 gallons of ice water with us. That way we can either drink it, or if we need to, cool somebody down, you can wet a rag, put it on your neck or whatnot, and cool down a bit. But yeah, so it was one of those things. And one of the other things that we did yesterday was we got there about an hour early, because with the way things are right now, in the lack of being able to buy brass and primers and bullets and powder and all that other stuff, so we got to the range early so we could range chicken. For those of you that don't know what range chicken is where you're going around, you're picking up all the brass off the ground, kind of like a chicken does, pecking on the ground. And we ended up with, probably 500 9mm brass, about 2308 brass, and probably 400 or 500 223 brass, and another 50 to 145 caliber ACP brass that I've been cleaning. As a matter of fact, I've got the last batch cleaning right now just finished up in the tumbler, and I've got all the 223 and 308 down here in the dehydrator that's drying it, so that I can reload it. And that's one of the benefits of going out to the range like this and getting there a little early, is you actually get to pick up the brass. Ruger, on the other hand, doesn't seem to really care about that kind of stuff. He's more into watching birds, chasing cats, barking at stuff. That's just the way he is. And now he's getting a talking to from mommy. So, but yeah, so I mean, that's one of the things that a lot of people just don't understand about shooting. A lot of people like to go out in the middle of the desert and shoot. I'm not really comfortable with that because, frankly, just because you're maybe shooting safely doesn't mean the people across from you may be shooting safely. We've had people here in Arizona that have been killed by stray shots over berms and stuff like that out on BLM land. So I prefer to go to the range. Now, I'm a member at Rio Salado, which is about 15 minutes away, and their high power range goes out, I think, to 500 or 600 yards, which is nice for distance shooting. But, it's still a distance. So, and if you got tournaments and stuff going on, usually the high power base shut down. You're also, after you do so many matches, getting endorsed to use the pistol bays, which are nice because they're small, they're compact. If I get the pistol bay, then I'm pretty much the range officer of the bay, and I can actually set up my own 3-gun course and practice. On the main range, you basically have your bench, and you can put your targets at 9 yards, 25 yards, 50 yards, 100 yards, 200 yards, and then they've got steel plates out at 314 yards. So that's fine and dandy if you're working on precision. But when we're learning, trying to work on transitioning and stuff like that, it's great to be able to use the pistol bays. I've got a couple of target stands that we can put the silhouette cardboard up on, and if my key still works, and I think it does, I can unlock the plate racks and stuff like that. So we can put a couple of plate racks out there so you can use those with pistol and shotgun. You don't want to use those with the 223 or 308 because you'll probably punch through it, and that would be bad. So that's one of the benefits of actually going to a range is you've got options. Whereas if you go to the desert, you're basically putting targets out there and you're shooting at them, and that's pretty much it. The other problem I have with people going and shooting in the desert is they never clean up their brass. They never pick up their shredded targets, and they leave shit everywhere. We went shooting with my brother and some of his friends, and although we were pretty good at, as a group, picking up all the brass and cleaning up our mess and picking up our shredded targets and stuff like that, it looked like a dump zone out there where people were just dropping shit off in the middle of nowhere because they didn't want to take it to the dump and pay money. So it really junks up our land and kind of kills the ability to use it for, going shooting or hiking or whatever. So if you're close to some sort of a range, I would recommend going there because you can also get some instruction at a range. Most of the range officers that work at these places are pretty good. They're range officers. Like at Rio Salado for multi-gun and PCC and stuff like that, I'm actually a certified range instructor for the Rio multi-gun group. So I'm constantly, when we have our big tournaments like the Superstition Mystery Mountain 3-gun in March, the Arizona State PCC Championships in September, you'll find me on one of the actual stages during the main match as a range officer, helping out, making sure everybody's safe, making sure people are preloading properly, not being, careless and stuff like that, helping with questions, that kind of thing. It's kind of like a really nice thing to do. I kind of giving back what they've given me by participating. Winning stuff off the prize table for the staff match afterwards is just a big bonus at that point in time. But I really like being a range officer during the big tournaments because you get to see everybody shoot. It was a real honor last year, this year, I guess, because we're still in 2021. I was range officer on stage 9 for Superstition Mountain Mystery 3-gun, which is like the farthest out area to shoot on the range. Yeah, we don't really have anything out there. If we got a porta potty within 200-300 yards, you're lucky. But I got to see every single shooter come through and shoot the stage, including favorites like Jerry Mikulek. He came by. He talked with me and my wife. We got pictures with him. He's one of the icons in the actual competition shooting industry, right? We got some other ones. Kelly Neal, he's a state champion and a national champion rifle owner. And we got to see some really, really good shooters, and we got to see some shooters that you got to give them the credit for having the heart to get out there and do that. But they definitely need a lot more practice. And I was there at one point, so I understand. These are newer shooters. You gotta try to keep them motivated and help lift them up when they have a bad match or a bad stage. Yesterday I had a horrible stage. I timed out on stage 3 because my mag problems. So I ended up timing out. I couldn't transition my targets because of the scope. That was a stage where I used my bipod and it wasn't working because my magazines were too short. So, but the thing about shooting is when you find these problems, it gives you the opportunity to fix them. Hence, now I have a new red dot. I also have 17-round Glock magazines for my Glock 17 that I can use when I know I'm going to have to go prone and using a bipod instead of a 33-round magazine, which is too tall. So it's one of those things that every time you shoot a match and you have a bad stage or you have a bad match, you can learn from that and you can fix those problems so that the next time you go to shoot, those problems are gone. And then if you're like me, you find a whole bunch of new problems and then you start working on those. But that's one of the things. If you don't know unless you actually get out there and compete. Because you're not going to get the same experience shooting at a range that you do when you compete in shooting. Because when you're competing in shooting, there's a time factor. So it kicks your adrenaline up, it kicks your heart rate up, and it may be a 2-minute stage, but by the end of the stage, you're breathing pretty hard because you're transitioning, you're running, your adrenaline's kicked up, you're doing all of this stuff, trying to juggle everything. It's a really healthy sport. I of course need a little more exercise here so I can whittle that down a little bit more. But I'm in a lot better shape now than I was 3 years ago, just because of the fact that even though competitions are only once or twice a month, it's more exercise than I normally get, because it seems like lately a lot of times at work I'm usually stuck at a desk doing stuff that I wouldn't normally be doing, because I would be out on the floor fixing stuff and moving around and this, that, and the other. So competition is good there too. It gets your heart rate up, and it makes you respond under pressure, which is one of those things. If you actually really did have to use your firearm in self-defense, you want to be able to operate under pressure and operate muscle memory while you're trying to decide what you're going to do. Because if you're trying to decide what you're going to do, and while you're doing that, your body is saying, okay, we're going to load this magazine, we're going to cock this back, we're going to move this trigger, we're going to do this. It's doing all that stuff without your brain consciously telling it to. And that speeds up your response time. So my recommendation, get out there and compete. You can go to PracticeScore, practicescore.com. You can get a free account. You don't have to pay to be on their service. And you can search for, matches in your area. There's a lot of different types of matches. I specifically shoot the multi-gun. I'll occasionally shoot the black rifle, very rarely. I probably should do it more, just because it'd give me more long-range practice, which I don't really have a lot of unless I'm doing multi-gun. I used to shoot the PCC tactical shotgun match, but since they've kind of gotten away from the tactical shotgun portion of it and only do PCC now, it kind of takes away the fun for it. I mean, I love shooting my shotgun. I love running my shotgun. And now there's not really any matches where it's all shotgun. So when I can shoot my shotgun, I always try to do that. The match yesterday didn't have shotgun allowed, so there you are. But it was good, because it gave me an indication of what I need to work on before the end of the month for the state championships. And then, of course, the first weekend of October is the Red October Cold War match, which is all rifle, and it's, I think, 7 stages, I think is what it is. But I'm sure it's a lot of fun. I tried to shoot it last year, and I probably would have if I wouldn't forgot all of my magazines and ammo sitting on the garage floor. Your rifle doesn't work when you don't have magazines or ammo. Go figure. But it's the only match that I shoot iron sights because of the divisions they have available. So if you're out there and you want events and you want to be with like-minded people with the idea that we support the Second Amendment, not a political type thing, I try to keep politics off the matches, because honestly, it's just not really worth it. We're all there to have fun and shoot. So why bring politics into something that's so basic, right? It just gums up the works. Now, I do have to say that there was a bit more chit-chatter yesterday at the match about a little more political, because it was the anniversary of 9/11, and people were wondering if somebody was going to actually do a sneak attack on it yesterday. Luckily, none of that happened. But it was kind of on the minds of everybody there, and also the minds of everybody wondering, I guess they were planning on actually doing a moment of silence to coincide with the attacks during the first squad groups of the match, but they just didn't get around to. They just forgot, because everybody started shooting, and you start concentrating on that, and you kind of ignore everything else that's on the outside. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to get started, here's what I would suggest you do. If you're not already if you're a gun owner, but you're not really sure what kind of competitions that you want to do and whatnot, go to PracticeScore. They have, like here at Real Salado, we have Tuesday Night Steel, which is a handgun only competition. To be allowed to shoot in it, you have to actually go through, I think it was a 4-hour safety course, where one of the match directors from the Tuesday Night Steel actually teaches you from start to finish, both in the classroom and then on the actual range, what Tuesday Night Steel is all about. You have organizations like USPCA. They're really good. Look them up. See if they're in your local area. They have a lot of courses and training and stuff like that to where you can actually participate. Some places like Rio Salado has matches that you don't have to be a member, you don't have to be affiliated with any organization, and you could be brand new, and they'll still welcome you in. At Rio Salado, for example, if you're a new shooter and have never shot there before, they require you to come in to register for the second four squads, which is usually 10:30 to whenever they finish. And then they ask you to come in like 10 so you can take their safety training course before you start shooting. And when you're a new person, they saddle you up with an experienced person, so that they can show you the ropes. They can give you tips and tricks, explain the rules to you. I was lucky. The first match I had 3 years ago, they saddled me up with a guy named Brendan, I believe he's Mesa Police, and he was really good at explaining things, showing me the ropes, knowing what's expected of you when you're on the range. Um, looking out for me through my first match. So it was really nice to have that. My son came out last year, and him and his girlfriend shot with me. He's never been in a match before. She's never been in a match before. So we took the afternoon squads. They went through the safety briefings and stuff like they're supposed to. And then during that point in time, they had what was called mentors, which were experienced shooters that would stick around for the second set of squads and help out with any new shooters. So they were really, really helpful. They were patient. They were understanding. They gave tips, tricks, help my son and his girlfriend through the match, and it was great. We all had a really good time. It was great to be shooting with my son, and the mentors made the experience for them pleasant. A lot of times you get with some of these more experienced people, they get cranky when you're not going fast enough, or if we're having to wait on you for something, or if you don't understand something and you ask for explanations. It's unfortunate, but there are some shooters out there that do that. But for the most part, I think probably 80-85% of the people that you're seeing at these matches are going to be really helpful, because they like to see more and more people join the sport. So go to these ranges. If you're unsure what type of firearms, it's always great to ask online what would be good firearms to try out, or what for matches and stuff like that. My personal thought on that is go someplace that lets you rent firearms. For example, Caswell's shooting range in Mesa here in Arizona, they let you rent guns. So you can rent different types of 9mm. You can rent different types of shotguns. You can rent different types of rifles. Find what fits you best, that you're comfortable with. Okay, I'm back. My laptop went into hibernation mode because it was a little too warm. Because being the adult that I am, I unplugged my uh, cooling pad underneath my laptop to plug the microphone in instead of the headset that I normally would have unplugged. Whoops. So, hey, when you're rolling with Scooter's brass, you got to be expecting stuff like this, which kind of rolls into the whole idea that when you're doing a match, you have to always expect the unexpected because you never actually know what's going to happen. At the beginning of stages, and I know that people have probably seen some of this stuff, you have people that you walk the stage and you try to come up with your strategy in your head of what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and how it's going to look. Sometimes, as soon as that beeper goes off and you hear beep in the background, everything that went into that you have in your head that you're going to actually deal with goes away. So, yeah, I'm looking at my video. My video looks really choppy on YouTube right now. And that could be because I had to reboot from hibernation and my laptop's still a bit warm. So, this is Ruger right here, folks. See, the Rugs dog. We rescued him just over, about a year and a half ago from the Apache Junction Paws and Claws Animal Pound because he needed a forever home. And here he is. Right, Rugs? Yeah, okay. He's over here. He's like, yeah, I know, Dad. Yeah, that's a good boy. Yes. So anyway, it goes back to what I was saying. Always expect the unexpected. You never know when something's going to happen, when something's going to go wrong, because it does. For example, yesterday. I was not expecting yesterday that I was going to jam up in the middle of the stage. But I had to prepare beforehand so that if I did do something like that or something like that happens, you have the capability to clear it. This is why I keep a knife in my pocket with a thin blade, not a big, thick blade, but a thin blade. Because with a thin blade, you can get down into the ejection port and try to get the brass out. With a thick one, you can't get it in far enough. So I would recommend getting one of those. For my 223 and my 308, I actually have an extractor that if the back of the brass pops off and it doesn't extract the casing out of the barrel, I pop that in there, hit the forward assist, ratchet, and it pops the whole thing right out because it grabs a hold of it inside, and then the actual extractor gets caught by the bolt and gets jerked out. So it's one of those things I would recommend. They're like about $20 a piece. I would get one for each type of ammo, whatever you have, 223 and 308 or whatever. They make them for most calibers. So it would be something that would be smart for you to have. Other things that you may not think about. Yesterday for stage 4, we had to run. And not only did we have to run, we had to run uphill over very rough terrain. It's kind of scary when you're carrying a loaded firearm and you're on and you're running and you're having to dodge rocks that you could twist your ankle on, jump over little holes where the rocks used to be until they went over it with a scraper. A lot of stuff like that you have to prepare for. So always keep in mind that things can happen at a moment's notice that you're not prepared for. Running upstairs. Stage 3 had a staircase, a pretty large staircase. You're trying to run up those stairs carrying a loaded weapon and not trip and fall down the stairs or trip and fall face first into the stairs. It's one of those things that you have to prepare for. What would you do if you did fall? What would if you did trip? I almost tripped over a boundary marker in a match because I got up to move and my toe caught it because it's made out of square box steel, 1 by 1 inch by, I think it was about 6 feet long. And my toe caught it and it almost put me down, but I was able to keep my balance and keep going. But I have seen people fall. In that kind of an instance, you want to make sure you control your firearm. That's paramount. If you fall and you get a bruise, it's not that big of a deal. If you fall and your gun goes off and you shoot somebody or something gets hit or your barrel is plugged because it got in the dirt and then you fired it, a lot of bad things can happen. So always remember that what can go wrong will go wrong, and prepare yourself for that possibility. Yeah, my video is always fuzzy. I think it's my internet connection, actually. On my computer, my video is clear as a bell. So I don't know. It's something to do with maybe YouTube or whatnot. But anyway, so whenever you decide to, if you're going to actually practice shooting or you competing or whatever, I would say go for it. I mean, there's nothing to lose. You're not going to lose anything by trying. If you're not any good at it, you're not any good at it. But until you actually try, you don't know that. And also remember that the more you do it, the better you get. I'm a much better shooter now than I was 3 years ago by long shots. This year was the first year during the Superstition Mountain I was able to hit the 500-yard targets in one shot each. Every year before that, I've missed. I was never able to hit those two targets. It comes with skill. It comes with knowledge. Learning what your holdovers are. Learning how your scope works and what the different hash marks means in your scope, depending on what your scope is. Some have rings, some have hash marks. Understanding your MOAs. Using the tools that are available to you. I've got an app on my phone. It's from, I think it's called Strager. Let me look. It's Strelok, Strelok, Strelok Pro. And I don't know if you can see this real well with that damn light, which floods out everything. But anyway, so this basically, you put in your rifle name, rifle type, your ammo. So in my case, this is right here set up for 223 55 grain Winchester. You put a target type, which lets you choose what type of target you're shooting at, whether it's a silhouette, a circle. It gives you different. You can see down at the bottom right there where it gives you different types of targets to look at, things that you could use. And then you put in your distance. And so I've got a rangefinder so I can figure out what the range is from the point of shooting to where I'm at. It also lets you put in slope, angle, degrees. So if you know that you're shooting at a 20-degree angle, you can put that in there. I've got a wind gauge, so I can actually tell what wind speed is, and then you put what direction it is from where you're shooting. So if you're shooting north and the wind's coming from the east, then you put in 90 degrees because your wind is coming 90 degrees from north. You put all that in there, and then you hit calculate, and then you hit the reticle button. And I don't know if you can see it real well. There we go. But it puts your target, the type target that you're going to be using, and your scope type, and it tells you the distance and which hash mark you should put where to hit that distance. It's a useful tool, and a lot of people use this in a match, unless you're really good and have had a lot of previous training. I haven't, so I use the tools. So there's a lot of things out there that you could use. Your equipment is really important. The type, you need to figure out what type of gun belt fits you, not what everybody else is using, but what feels comfortable to you. What kind of magazine pouches or holders on the belt feel best to you, because you're the one shooting it. I can go on and on all day long about the firearms that I use, but they may not be for you. You may have bigger hands than I do, so my 9mm may be too small. Or you have smaller hands. My 9mm could be too big for you to use, and you need something to use more compact. I use red dots on my pistol, my shotgun, and my rifle, plus a scope on my rifles, because I'm blind as a bat, right? I have definite vision problems. For you, you may be able to use iron sights, or just a scope, or just a red dot. Depends on your equipment division whatever you're going to shoot in. And it also depends on what's comfortable for you. Don't let everybody else dictate what you should use. Figure that out by yourself by using these things. Find people in the industry and say, hey, can I try on your belt? Can I look at your mag holders? Can I check your holster? Most people in the industry, or in the competition shooting world, are not going to have a problem with that. If somebody came up to me and said, hey, can I try on your belt? I want to see how it fits. Sure, why not? It's a two-piece belt. So I take off the outer ring, which has my holster, my mag holders, and stuff like that onto it, and then they can put it on, Velcro it in, and see how it rides, and see how the holster location feels and the magazine. People are good with that. As for firearms, you're going to have to work with that yourself. If somebody wants to try one of my firearms to see how it feels to them, that's fine. But I can't really guide them on that because of the fact that it's something that they're going to have to feel comfortable shooting. Most people may not like the chubby grips that I have on my rifles because it's a right-handed grip only. If you're left-handed, you can't really use it. My son's girlfriend figured that out because she shoots left-handed, and so she had a hard time with my my AR-15 because there's a thumb rest on the left side of the pistol grip, which was in her way when she was trying to hold it with her left hand. So you got to work on these things. You got to figure these things out yourself. You can't assume and listen to everybody online that tells you, oh, get this. This is the best shotgun. This is the best shotgun. This is the best rifle. This is the best. No. Figure out what's best for you and go from there. It's really a simple concept. The biggest thing I can say, though, is have fun. I don't shoot competition shooting because I'm trying to be the best and the baddest. I know that I'm not going to be able to compete with a lot of these guys. They've got much more experience. They've got much more speed. They're a lot younger. That helps. That's and I can't really say that that's the worst part of it because, I mean, Jerry Miculek is 67, and he's much better than I am, and I'm only almost 55. But he's also been shooting most of his life, whereas I haven't. But there's a lot of things that you can do and a lot of things you can work in. But the base thing to do is to go out and have fun. Enjoy the camaraderie of your fellow competitors. Joke around. I did this. I pranked one of the ROs yesterday. It was funny on stage 3. He came up to me and he had the timer and, he said, told me to make ready and everything. So I got my rifle and everything all set up, loaded the magazine, racked it, made sure the safety was on, checked my sight picture on my scope. And then he tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and test the clock. And so he hit the button on the clock and it went, meep, and I went, boom, and acted like I was shooting everything and scared the hell out of him. But it was funny. And he just started laughing about it. There's good camaraderie on the range if you're up to it, if you embrace it. If you're going to go with the idea that everybody you're going to meet is going to be somebody that doesn't agree with you politically, then you're not going to have fun because that just kind of takes away from all of it. So look at it from that point of view. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to learn. Don't go to it and say, I'm going to be the best or I'm going to be better or no. If you're going to be best, it's going to take practice. And the only way you get practice is by competing. It's a circle. So, I did something new this match, and I'm going to share that with you if I can get it to work. I'm going to try this to see what happens. It may or may not work, but I'm going to try it anyway. Yesterday, for the first time, I put a GoPro. Usually I wear one on my forehead, and I think if you've seen my videos, you've seen that. This time, yesterday, I had my GoPro 8 on my head, but then I actually got a mount for my PCC so that I could put my GoPro 4 on my rifle facing me. So you can see what I was looking at and how I was reacting and how I was using my scope and all this other stuff. I've never tried that before. So I tried that yesterday, and we downloaded the video and everything, and I did the first preliminary for stage 4. I just did one because I wanted to see how this was going to work with 2 pictures inside the frame. So there's basically 3 videos that you're watching at the same time. You've got the main screen, which is my GoPro that's on my forehead. Then you've got the camcorder screen on the right side of the top corner for the camcorder footage that Mrs. Scooter does when she's behind me with the camcorder. And now on the left side, you see the footage of me what I'm doing during that match. So you can't normally see what I'm doing when I'm messing with my firearm trying to clear it. Now you can, for the most part. So I'm trying to upload it now to see if I can get it to work, and then I'll play it for you. If it works and you have and you think it looks good, please let me know, because I don't want to do this video with all these 3 different screens and then have it be too busy or annoying or anything like that. I want to make sure people really kind of like it. My video is really getting horrible right now because I'm uploading that video. So I think my fuzzy video problem definitely is probably internet speed. Out here in the boondocks, we don't exactly have the fastest of the fast. So I've got DSL, which is great for, normal stuff. We've got decent download speeds, but the upload speeds are, of course, they meter those so that you're not uploading a bunch of stuff all the time, which kind of blows, because when you're trying to stream videos, you get what you see on the screen right now, which is a bunch of fuzz. So hopefully this is going to finish up sometime soon. It's not that big of a video. I think it was only 140 megabytes, something like that. But anyway, so while this is uploading, take it to heart. If you want to learn how to get better, then the best way to do that is to practice. And when you say practice, it's great if you go to the range and you shoot learning how to use your firearm and learning how to perfect your aim and stuff like that on the standard range, the public range, where it's just basically a bench and you have targets at certain distances and stuff like that. That's perfect for learning how to use your firearm and learning how to aim. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But if you want to get better with your firearms, after learning all of that, competition is the way to go, because it gives you real-time experience, knowledge, and participation with multiple targets over a certain distance of time. We even have people out there that are pretty much legally disabled. A friend of mine, John, he broke his hip 2 months ago, and he was out on the range yesterday shooting. He wasn't thrilled about the fact that he couldn't move very fast because he's still trying to get used to walking again. But he came out and he went through the motions so he could feel the fun of shooting again, because he's been missing it. I know. I've been seeing the look on his face every time I've seen him. But it was nice to see him out and about and actually in there participating. He only shot 2 stages because he had other things that he had to do, but it got him back into the action, which is where he likes to be. So remember that whenever you're looking for a place to shoot or looking for friends to shoot with. Good things can happen. You can meet some really talented people, really experienced people. Most of the stuff that I've learned with reloading has come from John, because he's a major reloader. He reloads precision. He reloads planking. Pretty much anything that he wants, he reloads. So he's a very, very good, source of information for me, and he's a good guy. I understand that he may be a little wrong because he trusted Trump, but that's just my opinion, and I give him shit about that all the time, just like he gives me shit about being a liberal. But we're friends. That's what friends do. We make fun of each other, especially on the range, right? So keep that in mind. You are going to run into some people that are going to be assholes. Trust me, I've been there. I've done that. But that doesn't mean that everybody's assholes. So try to keep that in mind, that you're going to meet some good folks, and then you're going to meet some not so good folks. But mostly you're going to meet good folks that'll be supportive of you as you try to, work your way through the wonderful journey that is competition shooting. This thing is still uploading. Probably going a lot slower because I'm doing the streaming at the same time. I wanted you guys to see this. But anyway, while it's still loading, if you have any ideas for content or questions for Scooter or Mrs. Scooter even, please feel free to email those questions to scootersbrass@gmail.com, or you can message on Facebook, or you can message on the YouTube channel. Either way, we'll be happy to hear from you. If you have any topics you want us to discuss, if you have any ideas on things that you would like to discuss on the show, please let me know. I'll bring you on. I have no problem bringing people on the show. I just try not to make my show political because I think that's a little too much. Okay, so I just finished loading. So I'm going to go ahead and try to make it play for you so you can see what this stage looked like. This was a good stage. It was a little hard on some of the long shots, but I figured it out. So let me see if I can make it work.
Are you ready? Stand by. Hit! 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 50% of sunbird show clear. Lift the hammer down. And flag.
I gotta shoot low.
Okay. Range is clear. Same problem.
All right. Well, so that gives you an idea of what it's like from 3 points of view when you're running a stage. I'll try to have the full video done in the next couple of days and uploaded to YouTube and Facebook so you can see the whole 4 stages. For stage 1 and stage 4 were the good stages. This one that you just watched is stage 4. Stage 2 and stage 3 are the ones where I had magazine problems. So you'll kind of get an idea how that looks whenever you see it. So we're over our hour. Thanks for listening and watching in. I appreciate it. Sorry about the drop off. I'll try to get a better cooling pad for my laptop so I don't, when I'm doing high stuff like this where I'm using up a lot of processing power, it'll overheat. So I'll get a better laptop cooling pad so that we don't have that happen in the future. But okay, so next weekend, we won't be having a show next weekend because we are going camping up north. We'll be out in the boondocks up in Coconino County, grilling and drinking and just enjoying nature and being away from the hoopla. So hope you enjoyed the show today. Like I said, if you have any ideas for the show, comments, questions, etc., you can reach me at scootersbrass@gmails.com. Also, if you are looking for firearms, accessories, ammo, etc., please go visit my sponsor, AJI Sporting Goods. They are on Apache Trail just west of Signal Butte in Mesa on the north side of the street. It's got a big sign that says AJI on the front. It's a family-run business. It's a local business. They've got good information, knowledge, experience, and they've got lots of stuff. Knives. They even have, I picked up a bow and arrow there one time too. Accessories, firearms, and ammo. So that's the place to go if you really want a good deal. Really good people. Just tell them Scooter sent you. And even if you forget to tell them Scooter sent you, they're still going to treat you right. So it's always a good plus. So have a good week. Have a good weekend. Rest of the weekend, have a good, safe week. Try to stay out of trouble. If you're in trouble, try not to get caught. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. No, we won't see you in 2 weeks. We may have to do a repeat of an old show because of the fact that next week is camp, or this coming weekend is camping. The week after that is the Arizona State PCC Championships. So if I do a show, it's going to be later in the evening after the match. We'll let you know. You'll see it posted on Facebook or YouTube or whatnot if I'm going to do a show or not. The weekend after that is the Red October. I'll be shooting on Sunday, so I'm not going to have chance on Sunday. But on Saturday, I move the show to Saturday just so I can still do the show. That'll be October 2nd, I think. But, yeah, so that's where we're at with that. But anyway, thanks for watching today, folks. Have a good weekend and have a good rest of the week. And please be safe.